The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Jenny Bailey from the Agile Business Consortium, and this is the Agile Business Conference 2018 Reflective Insights webinar programme. This one's brought to you in association with QA Ltd. They're transforming performance through learning. And really, I have to say a big thank you to all our sponsors of the conference, because really, without them, we couldn't have brought you such an amazing conference. So they do play a huge part, and thank you very much for their participation. Now, as you may know, we're conducting a series of these post-conference webinars where I'll be chatting to some of this year's conference speakers and other influential people that made the event such a success. Now, we are recording this broadcast, so you'll be able to watch it again in the future and use it for references. Also, we're happy to take questions, so please send them through to me using the chat box on the webinar platform. And if time permits, we'll get through as many as we can. Now, if you didn't attend the Agile Business Conference, it happened back on the 26th and 27th of September in London. This year, our theme was Creating Generation Agile, where we looked at how we can prepare a generation to be successful in an uncertain world. And this was really explored with the core Agile values through the principles of people, strategy, and delivery. So let's continue with our reflective insight series. My guest today is Iwona Winiarska, who gave us a fantastic roundtable session at the conference. Iwona is an Agile Delivery Manager at the Government Digital Services, GDS. She leads multidisciplinary teams and transforms digital services across the government. So I'm delighted that she's joined us today. So Iwona, hello, good morning.
Hello, Jenny. Good morning.
Hello. Hi. Thank you so much for taking this time to join us today. It's an absolute delight to talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to this webinar.
No problem at all. Now, looking at your profile there, you're an extremely experienced lady who's done a lot of delivery and agile knowledge in so many sectors, like we were talking earlier. Your profile and your experience is quite vast. It looks like you've worked in so many sectors. So can you just tell us a little bit about it, really? What's brought you to Agile?
Yes, sure. So I'm experienced in digital and technology overall. So I was delivering various programs, portfolios, and projects on a large scale. Also digital projects and products to really multinational companies across a range of industries, as you said. Mm-hmm. I've been working with various companies in all of the sectors. So for example, that was financial services, retail, media, technology, automotive, and healthcare. And I started my Agile journey, I would say 5 years ago, when actually I've noticed that perhaps something else would work slightly better. Mm. So now I'm focused mainly on Agile delivery, and I help the teams and organizations to find better ways of working using a variety of Agile techniques and principles. As you said, currently I work for the Government Digital Service. I work for the PaaS team. Mm-hmm. PaaS stands for Platform as a Service. And the platform provides government departments with a hosting platform so that they can host their services, digital services on it using like really minimum effort and cost to build it. Right. So Gov.uk PaaS is designed to meet the needs of government teams, and before that I joined another team which was Standards Assurance. And I was supporting assurance and assessment process of digital services. So that was also very interesting to see how it works in practice and how the service teams in various government departments use the digital service standards. Right. Apart from those, I think I just try to be really active in Agile community, to contribute to it as much as possible, to share my knowledge and expertise. So I think that's why I'm here.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why you joined us at the conference as well, I think, because you gave a fantastic roundtable, which was entitled The Top Tips for Agile Delivery Managers. And you gave us 10 top tips, didn't you?
Yes, I did. So I also wanted, so that was the roundtable session, and I wanted all attendees of this session to take the most out of this time, which means that even though I had my deck, I just wanted to have that informal discussion about our experiences and what we really think about this role, because that's very interesting to see that actually. So my background is being a Scrum Master basically, and suddenly like you're a delivery manager when there is another element of being accountable for delivery. So I was really curious also to hear what other people have to say about what the experience is. Right. Especially in words of complexity and shifting priorities. That is really important for the teams and organizations to be nimble and adapt to the rapidly changing environment.
Okay. No, well, okay, we'll come to your session in a while, but let's just pop back to the conference for a little bit. It was obviously your first conference that you'd come along to, wasn't it?
Yeah, so that was my first conference, and I actually started one before, when there was the pre-conference panel discussion about PM, also very interesting discussion, and I enjoyed it a lot. And then I joined the conference, so I attended the conference on the first and second day.
Okay. So you caught up with some of the keynotes and some of the other presentations and the action that was happening. What was your overall feeling of the conference, out of interest?
Like honestly, I was really amazed. So I like going to this type of conferences, and I think this conference was definitely my favorite one this year. So the reason why was that there were so many speakers that their talks and their presentations really resonated with me in a way that that was something that I was really interested in. For example, the keynote speakers, and also there was one discussion I can remember about how Agile is the government. So that was something that I wanted also to see what my colleagues want to say. But what I like the most, I really loved the talk of Dr. Flack and her story, her actually personal story that she shared with us, I think during the first day of the conference. And that was really, really amazing. And I like the fact that she is actually passionate advocate for women in tech. Yeah. And I also find myself as a woman in tech struggling with certain things. So that was really interesting to see.
I think she was extremely inspirational. Dr. Sue Black, she was our first keynote, wasn't she, on day one of the conference? Yes. And she was talking about her life story and how she really did turn it around. She's made a huge success of herself now. Women in Tech is big, obviously saving Bletchley Park as well. She's really brought things to the forefront of where people have taken a lot of notice, a lot of consideration, and she's changing so many things for the better.
Yes, absolutely. I think this talk was really amazing, and it was really a good start to the conference from the organizational perspective.
I think overall one of the key things that came out of this year's conference more than anything was the unity, really, with everybody. That obviously the tech world were there, and very much the business world were there as well. And in the past, we've had to kind of balance those two markets, if you like, from the conference in terms of what we're bringing together for the day. But this year, that everyone just seemed to understand the message, and it was very, very people centric. And it was really interesting how the enthusiasm and in the engagement was so right. It was so lovely for me as an organizer, really, to bring that together. It really worked.
Yes, definitely. I really like the fact that I can just meet like-minded people, talk to them and share experiences. So I met, it was like not only that I was going to different talks and presentations, I was also actively mingling with people during the breaks, and that was something valuable that I could talk and share our experiences to see how they use agile ways of working, what companies they work for, and also what is their approach they take.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was good. It all came together. So we've got all this to do again next year.
Yes, definitely.
So let's look at your role, because through the roundtable session you gave, obviously we looked at what do actual Agile Delivery Managers do, and really you're involved in a lot, aren't you? Looking at this.
Yes, yes. I'm not sure if this is actually like the way how it should be presented, because we see various areas, and I think this role is also very interesting to mention that it might be changing from one team to another, because delivery managers do so many things, and in some teams they might be acting more like scrum masters and agile coaches. In some other teams they might also act as agile project managers. So that was very interesting, that I wanted to talk about with other attendees of the conference. And also, when I was preparing for this roundtable session, I was just Googling and checking. And actually, if you Google the term delivery manager, this phrase, you can't find many results. There's hardly like there's no information at all on the internet. That's why I think it's really important to talk about this, and also the challenge I came across when you are a servant leader and also you're accountable for delivery.
Sure.
Which is very interesting. Yeah, so that was the session. In the session, we were talking about main things that are important for us as delivery managers. And I must say that exactly the same thing we were talking about, they covered everything what I had in my presentation. So we've been talking about agile ways of working, and as you can see, it is agile and lean practices. So it depends on the team maturity. Sometimes it is about implementing these practices really from scratch and working hard with the team to become more agile. And sometimes you just work with the teams who are very well established and who are doing very well in terms of agile practices. Then there is another area is team health and happiness, which is very important. And this is something which is important for me as a delivery manager. So, for example, what we do at GDS, we do team health checks on a regular basis. Yeah, so that's very interesting. We just one of the retrospective meetings is dedicated to the team health check, and we just ask the team to answer various questions or to vote. And we have, I think, 12 categories about ways of working, about strategy, clarity of the strategy as well. And then all of the ways of working, like how agile we are, and happiness, like are we happy as a team? And it's really interesting to see like how people vote. And then obviously we can very easily identify the areas that need some further discussion and changes. So that's also very important. And as we said, the last one is delivery support and being accountable for delivery. So this is very close collaboration with the product owner on the team, which is extremely important.
Now, you were telling me earlier that there's 50 different Agile Delivery Managers there at GDS, is that right?
Yes, that's correct. So we have a very large group of Agile Delivery Managers at GDS. When I joined GDS, it was really amazing to see a lot of people who actually do the same thing, but all the experiences are so different. So I found the group really supportive, and we always do the knowledge share. We meet very often, we share experiences. We also share the problems and do case studies, which means that if, as a delivery manager, if I have a problem, I can share my problem with the rest of the group, and we try to come up with the right solution or find different options on how this problem could be solved.
Sure.
So we really try to support each other, which is great. We meet very often, and I think that this is very unique.
But I mean, you guys are leading the world in digital services, aren't you? Because obviously what you achieved at GDS with the gov.uk project, for instance, was just phenomenal. And it made us #1 in the world, didn't it, for digital services? So I think in a way people do look to you guys to see what you're doing, to then kind of go, well, yeah, let's follow these guys. They're doing it right. So whatever you are doing there, I think people are very interested in.
I think yes, that's true, and I think that actually the teams at GDS are a really good example of agile teams. I found so many, good practices in other teams that I found so interesting and tailored to the context that work very well. That it's really, I also take example of them, and I try to share that if I see, or if I've learned something, I try to share with the rest of my colleagues during our sessions, so that we can learn and improve as we go.
Yeah, because I think it's worth mentioning GDS. What you were set up in 2011, weren't you? And that goal, that big goal that you were given, was to turn 1,884 separate websites into a single site for the government, which turned then into the gov.uk project. And I think it was 10 weeks that the alpha was put together in with your project teams that were working on it, which is outstanding, really, isn't it? When there's organisations that are doing projects that are taking years sometimes, and you guys took 10 weeks to turn that around. So I'm not surprised people look to you guys really to sort of see how you're doing it and get very interested in your work and in your practices.
Yes, definitely. I think GDS have done great things. What I like the most, and what we currently use at GDS, also when working with various government departments, is using various standards that GDS created, like the Digital Service Standards, Technology Code of Practice. Also, there is the governance principles for agile delivery, which is also very interesting. And we always try to have something to show what good looks like, and to have best practices, and to share them with the rest of the government, and also with the private sector as well.
So outside looking in, it does seem a very happy, engaged organisation, definitely. I mean, would that be right?
I think so. I think so. We are definitely engaged and interested in, what's happening, not only inside but also outside of GDS, and how Agile evolves, because that's something that is really interesting. And when we talk about Agile, we also need to be agile, and we need to be very nimble as organizations.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, Agile does evolve, and we were talking about that earlier as well, weren't we? About whether or not, is there another path for Agile once this is done, and big transformations, and people's understanding of Agile, whether it's going to go mainstream and that kind of thing. And then obviously we got talking about frameworks and everything as well, the tools and techniques that are out there. And really, it's a case of bringing the value, isn't it, to organizations, that they can use those agile principles to make a difference in their organizations. So, I mean, this slide that you obviously put forward for your roundtable was very much about the agnostic element of agile, wasn't it? One size does not fit all. And I think that's a learning process for lots of people.
Definitely. For me, being framework agnostic is really important, and there are so many different frameworks and methods that we can use in our teams. But I think we should be just selecting the right practices where it is the context we are in, whilst also remaining true to the core agile principles. So I always try to remember about fast feedback, user-centered design, stakeholders involvement, and everything what actually Agile Manifesto talks about, collaboration and communication as core values when working in an agile way.
Absolutely. So looking at the agnostic element then, this was obviously agreed at the table, was it, when you were talking? Because I know you had quite a lot of people around your table discussing these slides at the time, didn't you?
Yes, I have. And actually, when we were talking about being agnostic, there were some attendees in that session that actually said that in their organizations, they stick to one particular framework a lot.
Okay.
And then we started the whole conversation about being framework agnostic and just selecting the practices and techniques that work in our environment. So that was really interesting to actually see that experience and to have that discussion. And I think that's why we should have that platform and also conferences to talk about these things.
Absolutely. No, it is always interesting, and to bring that out into like a forum environment where people feel able to have that discussion, I think is really powerful. So, I mean, we do that a lot at the conference. We always have round tables, and I think that will continue because that format seems to work. There's sometimes a variety of round tables, and sometimes I feel there's a few too many. But we look at our round table topics very carefully. And so we bring as much as we can to those elements where people can have a choice of where they wish to go, and what session they actually want to sit down with and engage with, really.
Yes, and I think there was a lot of variety in these topics, and I think everyone who attended the conference could find anything that was interesting for them.
Yeah,
so that was really good.
Okay, let's talk about the mindset then behind Agile, the culture and leadership element, because I know the consortium's we've done a huge amount of work in this element. We've come out with the 9 principles of Agile leadership, for instance. We've got the cultural DNA factors, we've got the pulse matrix, and culture and leadership is a very, very hot topic. So it's all about that, isn't it? Bringing the team together.
Yes, definitely, and I think that this is also important from the Agile perspective, that and that empowering team is so important, and making sure that we can become more self-organizing over time. So that's why we also discussed this topic, like in various like Agile methodologies, we talk about self-organizing team and servant leadership and all of these things. And suddenly, like, I started wondering, like, but what do you mean? And so we talk about self-organizing team as a team that's definitely all of the team members execute the task, but then there is something more, like we see when everyone knows, what they should be doing without actually sometimes talking to each other about, oh, okay, so now I'm going to hand this over to you. And so, so for me, a self-organizing team is definitely the team that is not only doing the work that they're supposed to do, but also they manage the work processes and the progress. They are able to say, like, for example, what is their velocity, and then they can also design the team and organizational context. So definitely, when we speak about the empowered team, is the team that can take initiative and can drive the team as the whole group and also product, which is very important. They know what they're doing, and that is something that it's really hard to teach, but actually after some time it happens over time. So definitely Agile ways of working help with this a lot.
What about the elements that good ideas can come from anywhere? Does that kind of reign true at GDS as well?
Yes, definitely. We try to involve our teams and everyone who needs to be involved, so that everyone can be a part of something we create together. At GDS we have so many brainstorming sessions and planning sessions.
Sure.
And we talk a lot, and I think what we like the most are the walls, because we always put all of the ideas onto the walls, and it looks really like when you see what has been just discussed, it already gives you an idea of what we're talking about, what we're gonna do next.
Sure.
So that's why I think visualizing things and different ideas is so important. So I think, like in Agile, like we talk about Canva boards and everything. So that's why, like, we try to do as much of this visualizations as much as possible, because this really helps.
Absolutely, it's that trust and transparency elements, isn't it? It's those things are so important, I think, for psychological safety within teams as well.
Yes, absolutely. Being transparent is so important. And I mean being transparent not only like in showing the progress of the work you're doing, but also like transparent about what are our goals and objectives for this quarter, what we're gonna work on, and also like anything related to the team. For example, the roadmap, so that everyone knows what we're doing. Yeah.
And then it's interesting you talk about post-its, and we have our cupboard doors here that you can write on, but post-its obviously are such an agile tool as well. So yeah, I mean, let's talk about prioritizing. I mean, do you use Moscow, for instance?
We do, yeah. We use it, I think, for most of the things we need to prioritize. Definitely when prioritizing requirements and the roadmap, and sometimes we just need to choose, oh, okay, what shall we work on? And it's really difficult when you need to prioritize when everything is critical. So that's why during the session we talk about like how we can prioritize in a complex environment when actually sometimes we don't know what we're doing because we have never done this project before, or this kind of feature, and that's why I think prioritizing is really easily said, but it's so difficult to actually execute and to also make a decision as a product owner who need to decide, okay, what we're going to work on now. So that's really interesting, and we use various techniques. As you said, we use the Moscow model, and we use also, personally, I like using prioritizing technique, which is comparing the value and effort, how much effort we should spend, and sometimes we can see that there are the things that take very minimum effort, but they are so valuable, and the fixes would take just minutes or seconds. So that's why presenting this in a visual way helps to decide what is the most important in that period of time and what we can do later on. There is also another technique. So there is important versus urgent. So sometimes we try to solve problems that can wait. And on the other hand, there are problems that need to be solved very quickly, but they're not important. So
right,
that's very interesting to think about all of this from various perspectives and angles, and also taking into consideration the risk. What would happen if we didn't do this? Which is another very interesting thing to do, to discuss with the team during the planning sessions.
Absolutely. I bet this slide went down very well in the presentation, because I think a lot of people can relate to this. I think, I mean, agile practices, I'm sure organizations across the world now use the boards of some kind, because it's that trust, transparency, it's that visual element, it's that go and see for yourself. There's so many things wrapped up in, whether it's a Kanban board or whether it's another type of board that visualizes a project from where it's starting and where it's going, even digitally as well, with Trello, for instance, as well, and other systems that are out there.
Yes, there's so many systems, and I think every team at GDS is using a different system because the teams are different and they have different needs. So that's very interesting to actually find the tool that you really need and that meets the need of the whole team. So you've mentioned also one thing, which is go to see yourself. That's very, I think that's my favorite one, which talks about when we try to visualize all of the work we're doing. I like this governance principle. So this is included in the governance principles for Agile Delivery on gov.uk. And it actually tells that when we visualize and when we work, usually senior stakeholders want to know what is the progress, and they ask for updates, and we attend regular meetings. But actually what works very well is that we can always invite them so that they can go to see themselves, what the progress is, how the team is doing, are we struggling with something, are there any blockers, and how they can help us. So that's really important, to involve stakeholders, senior managers, or whoever who should be involved in that project to be informed about the status and the progress, and also contribute in case there are some questions from the team or any problems they could potentially help us with. So that's why I think what I do in my daily work, I just try to connect people. I mean, people from various teams, but also my team and the senior management, and also when working on larger programs or projects, it's really important to make sure that all of the teams across organization work together, like operations, policy, and delivery, which is also very important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it says here on this slide, it's all about the values, really, isn't it? And how you adopt and what you can bring to your projects. It's the value you can add with these tools and techniques.
Yes, absolutely. I think values, agile values, are for me very important. So before starting any agile transformation, people tend to start with tools and processes, which I think it might work. I don't know, but I think what I would do, I would definitely start with starting with agile values. So this is definitely communication, collaboration, stakeholders involvement. And the way how we can do that is definitely by inviting other teams or our other stakeholders to the team so that they can see what we do, how we work, and they can be informed. I think feedback is very important from the user perspective. Fast loop. That's why I think at GDS we build digital services that follow the life cycle of alpha, beta, and life stages, so that we can gather user feedback and then iterate based on that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, user feedback, retrospectives, it's another tool that's used, and it's vital. I think really we learn so much from it, don't we?
Yes, absolutely. And this is so helpful when you do it for some time. You just see, oh my God, this really helps.
Yes.
And you can see the benefits of it. It's just, it's really amazing. I think what you just need to do and remember about is also being persistent as a delivery manager, that you do it on a regular basis. When you have retrospectives, it's not just about discussing things, what we should be doing, but actually making sure that this happens. And I think that's the problem of many teams in both public and private sector, that actually these actions are not taken to the next stage and they are not executed. And I think that's something that delivery managers should be doing.
Absolutely. Out of interest, you've got there on the top post-it there, fear of change. I mean, do you get a lot of resistance with that kind of thing in your operation, or in terms of in your team when you're working on a project? Is that there, or is that maybe a higher level? I mean, I'm aware, obviously, change management is a big thing, like we were talking earlier, and some people are still a little resistant to kind of looking at Agile, because obviously in the leadership team, everything's very safe, and some people view Agile as a leap of faith, and we have to almost like deconstruct things to work in an Agile way, and it won't be safe for the leadership team anymore. But I'm just interested, the fear of change that's there on the post-it.
I think fear of change is in every team and organization. It's always something that people don't want to do or change, because there's that kind of fear for many reasons. So that's definitely, I think it depends what we're talking about, if it's like, you know, agile and digital transformation, or just changing ways of working. But actually, when talking to various people, I started realizing that yes, there is definitely this fear of change, and I think it is right. I think what we should be doing as delivery managers and agile coaches is just like how we go about that fear and how we're going to solve that. So definitely we can't just use this command control approach and tell people how we should work as a team or organization, but definitely we should involve them from the early stage, so that they can decide also about the things they're doing. And this is like a very long-term process. It's nothing that happens overnight, and it needs a lot of time and effort to work with the team, so that they can we can just get their buy-in to a different idea, different way of working, or different approach. And that's something that it's not easy. It's really difficult. And I think agile transformation is about changing people's mindset. And what's interesting is sometimes not actually people as when we talk about teams to change the team's mindset, but sometimes I think it is more about the stakeholders and senior management, so that they can understand that they also need to change. It's really not just about the teams, and it's not that Agile happens somewhere there, the way how we work, but it is within the whole organization and all of the teams. So it's not only IT department, but it is also HR, it's operations, it's procurement, and that's really important to bear in mind when actually starting an agile transformation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Let's have a look, if we can, then at the governance principles that you were mentioning earlier, because these are the 6 principles, aren't they, that are created, and they're created really by GDS, weren't they? These ones.
Yes, they were. I can't remember when exactly they were created. I think I actually found it like after some time after I joined GDS, because like everyone talks about the digital service standards and the technology code of practice and open standards we use. And then I found, oh my God, the governance principles. And I think this is so true. Like what I read at that time, it was, oh my God, I found it. This governance principles talk about how we should make decisions and actually deliver the projects, which is maybe more about collaboration as well, and stakeholders' involvement, making decisions in the right time. I think I agree with all of them. I think favorite one is go see for yourself. So this is what we're talking about when when the senior stakeholders need to be informed, or clients, about the project and the status. Then they can actually go and see by attending all of the agile ceremonies we have in the team, the daily stand-up or the sprint planning, and they can really get involved. I found it really helpful when my team said, oh, it was really great to talk to our managers during one of the meetings, because they actually answered all of our questions.
Right.
So
sure.
I really realized that it really works. So that's why I think we should be doing this more often. And what I do is just like, I have my favorite standards, also like Agile Manifesto, where I always get back to it after some time, and I like just, reading it once again, because it's really, sometimes you just don't remember about certain things, but being in that particular situation, it helps you just to go back to the source of information and read it again. So this is really helpful, what I found when working at GDS.
I mean, yeah, the Agile Manifesto we signed it back in 2001. We were one of the signatories there, the consortium.
Yes.
So yeah, it's amazing. It's certainly stood its test of time, hasn't it? It really has, and it's setting out those core values, those core principles in the manifesto that if you really follow those, then you're going to be in a better place, and the values that come out of that, I think, is extremely strong.
Yes, absolutely. I think this is a really great piece of work, and I think it helps many teams to progress and to be better in delivery.
Yeah, I think don't slow down delivery can be seen as a bit of a panic situation, can't it? It's like keep it going, keep it going. I mean, do you ever get that from there, or how do you view that one? Don't slow down delivery.
I think this is more about sustainable pace. So this is really, again, we refer back to the Agile core values, which is about sustainable pace. And sometimes I find that some decisions might be taken in a shorter period of time.
Yeah, sure.
Or actually, we don't need to wait 2 weeks to catch up with someone. We can just go and talk to that person and already know what the answer is. So this is everything what helps us make frequent decisions throughout also service delivery, and this is important when we build the digital services, that we need to be mindful to balance everything, to build the features, and when we talk about requirements, but also maintaining the quality. So I think this is really true, and sometimes I try, when I work and I have something like blockers, I try to find the most effective way of actually how can I do it in the most efficient way, so that it doesn't take days or weeks, but actually I can say that this is done now and move the cards on my Trello board. So that is really important, and I think that maybe some people just maybe think too much, and I think that sometimes things might be simple, we just tend to overcomplicate them, but actually finding like the right person you should talk to or the right decision maker is really important in the whole process to not to slow it down.
Absolutely. So, I mean, at the roundtable, then you gave the top 10, didn't you? The top 10 tips for an Agile Delivery Manager. Would you say there's 5 that you could condense those to, or is it 10? It has to be 10, do you think? Because I mean, I've got the whole list here, so we can just quickly list them if you like. But I just didn't know if there would be 5 that would resonate stronger with you.
Sure. I think the top 5 would be, I think we'll start with the beginning of my presentation. So it will be definitely being framework agnostic. I can't remember what was the next one.
Okay, well, if I read them out, we've got be framework agnostic, and then we've got servant leadership.
Yes, absolutely. That would be the next one.
Self-organizing team.
Yes.
Prioritizing in a complex world.
Yes.
Don't start with tools or processes.
Yes, absolutely. I think we've been talking about this one.
Yes, that's right. We have. Yeah, we got success stories and failures. I guess that's learning from, maybe then, isn't it, in that respect?
Yes. So sharing good practices, sharing this within the team, within wider context, and with the rest of the teams. We do at GDS, so we use a format that is called show and tell. We always invite different teams from other departments so that they can see what we have been working on and how everything is progressing. I think it's really hard to limit, from 10 to 5.
I think it's an unfair question, in all honesty.
Yeah, I think it depends on the context. Like today, I might need to work on this thing, but in 1 month's time, it will be another thing. So it's really where we are on that journey, and that's why I think it's really important to remember about all of the things, and then select as we said, methods, practices, or values depending on the need.
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. And what I'll do with everyone that's registered for the webinar, I'll send them out the follow-up email that will go out, and I'll just list the 10 there for you, because I think it's an unfair question, because looking at them, they're so important, and they kind of fit together in a way, and they follow the process. So, and like you say, it does depend on the context as well. So yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
I think so. When we talk about the context, I would definitely think of the team size, the product. So, for example, at GDS, we have like the product teams, but some of the teams are also very different. So, as I said earlier, I was working in standards assurance, which was more about business processes and assurance and assessments, and supporting the digital transformation of across governments. So that's very different to apply certain techniques that are relevant for product teams within IT environments. So that's why I think, taking that into consideration and thinking about this upfront is so important, rather than jumping and choosing something and trying it and then seeing that, oh, actually it doesn't work. So yes, I completely agree that everything depends on the context.
Yeah, no, definitely. Iwona, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you this morning. It really has. I know the roundtable on our reviews and our feedback was just everybody just got so much inspiration from it, and having that discussion was really valuable to everybody that was around your table. So I really do appreciate your time joining us at the conference. I think it was a really well attended roundtable, and like I said, the information that was shared there was really great.
Thank you so much also for having me. For me, it is a great pleasure to talk about these things. As I said before, I try to be active in the Agile community, so I take any opportunity if I can share anything, and if I can help anyone else who needs help or who's struggling with the same problems I used to have before. So thank you for that.
I think you've touched on that there as well. I think that was another thing that came very clearly through in the conference, the fact that, there's a lot of people in the same boat. They're on their agile journey as well. And some people are at the start and some people are a little bit further in the process, as it were. And I think from a lot of the feedback, I've been going through a lot of the editing clips recently, and a lot of the feedback and the content that we gathered was individuals kind of saying it's great that we're not on our own. It's great that other organizations are going through what we're going through. And I think that's another big value of having a conference, isn't it? Bringing everyone together to have those discussions.
Yes, absolutely. I think this is so important when people can mingle and they can talk about these things, because it's not just us. There are other people having the same problems, or people who actually have also the good stories to share with the rest, of the community, so that we can talk about that, and we also see what works or what doesn't work, so that it is a certain, I can say, saving time, so that when I hear a story when actually something like this didn't work, I wouldn't be trying this on my own. Because some of these changes, like trying things, again, it's easy to say, but changing anything in the team and the current ways of working takes a lot of time and energy. So also we need to remember how we're gonna do it, what is the value and what effort it takes. Because I think sometimes we might be trying solving the problems that are actually not that important.
Yeah, and that can be reiterated almost at those sort of conference forums as well, can't it? Whether it's a case study that's presented, or a track session, or like you say, the roundtable sessions as well. I think those kind of insights and those discussion elements, they really engage with people, because they need to know, we're having this challenge and what do we do about it? We've had a lot of organisations come to the conference that are challenging and having a few concerns maybe with their own journey in agile and business agility. So I think they went away a lot more refreshed in their understanding maybe, and thinking they can maybe try things a little bit different and a new way forward, which I think is really strong.
Yes, that's completely true. And always, I think I'm really grateful that we're having now the reflective insights after the conference, because always when I attend any conference, it's just really good to reflect on all of the learnings after some time, to understand it better, to go through it once again, and to actually decide what I'm going to do next, or what am I going to change in my current role when I come back to work on Monday. How will I be different? So I think conferences for me, and also the Agile Business Conference, is for me something that is more personality changing, life changing thing that people change after attending these events, and I think that's why it's so powerful.
Absolutely. And long may that continue. We'll be in our 17th year next year, and we've got there now saving the date for the 25th and the 26th of September 2019. It's not that far away, really, is it? Thinking about things and how fast time just flies by these days, and the planning and everything that we're going to be putting into place. There will be a submission process that's going to be opening up early next year. More information will be on our website. So so please keep an eye on our website. I think there's another week to go with the presentations that are on the website currently as well. And then I think 2018 will go into the archive, and we'll be talking about 2019. So it's all going to be happening very soon. So from me, Iwona, thank you. Iwona Winiarska, Agile Delivery Manager at GDS. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you this morning. And thank you for bringing us so many of your insights, really, from your roundtable presentations and the reviews that we've been talking about today. It's been really, really valuable. And I really do appreciate you joining us and your time.
Also, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to talk about this.
No problem. We look forward to seeing you again next year.
Yes, see you soon.
Definitely. So this is the Reflective Insights webinar program, and this one's brought to you in association with QA Ltd, transforming performance through learning. I have to say a big thank you again to our sponsors. Without them, we wouldn't be able to bring you such a varied and powerful conference. So there we go. We've got the dates now for next year, 25th and 26th September. Please look out on our website for more information. But from me, Jenny Bailey, today. Thank you so much for listening. There will be a few more webinars coming up soon, to keep an eye on our website, the consortium website, or indeed the conference website, and we'll bring you more information soon. But from me, Jenny Bailey, thank you so much for joining us. We will keep the discussions flowing. If you wish to send in questions to me or any feedback you have, just please send it to jenny@agilebusiness.org. My email is just there under the date for next year. So look forward to speaking to you soon, and thank you again for your time this morning. Bye bye for now.